In this video, you will learn about the conic section of a parabola. To form a parabola, you will start with a line and a point off to one side. The line are called the directrix, and the point is called the focus. So we have directrix, the vertical or the horizontal line, and the point inside the parabola is called the focus. The parabola is the curve formed from all of the points x and y that are equidistant from the directrix and the focus. So what that means is we can have a point on the parabola and the vertical distance to the directrix is going to be the same as the diagonal distance to the focus for a vertical parabola, or the horizontal distance from the directrix to the point is going to be the same as the distance between the focus and the point. The line perpendicular to the directrix that passes through the focus, that's going to split the parabola in half, is called the axis of symmetry. And the point on the axis, which is exactly midway between the focus and the directrix, is called the vertex. The vertex is the point where the parabola changes direction. The equation for the parabola, we're either going to have a vertical or a horizontal parabola. So for vertical parabolas, we have x minus h squared equals 4 times p, parentheses y minus k. The vertex is going to be h and k. The axis of symmetry is going to be x equals h. The focus is going to be h comma k plus p. And the directrix is going to be a horizontal line at the location of y equals k minus p. This p-value is the distance from the focus to the vertex, and it's the same distance from the vertex to the directrix. For horizontal, it's going to be y minus k squared equals 4 times p. P is still the distance between the vertex and the focus and the directrix. The vertex is still going to be h and k, but the axis of symmetry is going to be the horizontal line y equals k. The focus, we're going to add to the h value this time, and the directrix is going to be a vertical line at the location of x equals h minus p. The focus and the directrix are equidistant to the vertex. The distance between the focus and the directrix and the vertex is the value p. So what that looks like is when p is greater than 0, it's going to be a vertical parabola when the x squared is termed. When p is less than 0, it's going to be a vertical parabola that opens down. P is the distance from here to here, or from here to here. And if we have a horizontal parabola, we have y minus k is going to be the squared term. And if the p-value is greater than 0, it's going to open to the right. If the p-value is less than 0, it's going to open to the left. Find the equation, directrix, and graph the parabola given that the vertex is 2, 1 and the focus is 2, 4. The first thing you need to do is you need to kind of sketch this thing out. So here's our vertex, here's our focus. The reason why this is important is because it's going to tell us the orientation of the parabola. Since the focus is above the vertex, it's going to be a vertical parabola that opens up, since p is going to be greater than, and p is going to be greater than 0. So we're going to use the vertical information. We know the vertex is 2, negative 1, which means that the axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals 2. It's going to be at the h value. And the focus is going to be 2, 4. The next piece of information we need is p. P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. So we look over here and we count up how many spaces are in between the vertex and the focus. And that ends up being p equals 3. And then if we need the directrix, we are going to go down the same p-value. So we're going to count down 3, which is going to end us up at y equals -2. So the equation we have, filling in all the blanks, is x minus 2. That's going to be, comes from our h value. 12, which comes from 4 times p. Y minus 1, that's our k value. The first thing we need to get on our graph is the axis of symmetry. So our axis of symmetry, don't forget to label it, is x equals 2. And while we're at it, we'll label our directrix at y equals -2. We need a few more points to get our parabola. So what we need to do is we need to solve our equation for y and make a table. When I solve for y, I got y equals x minus 2 squared over 12 plus 1. Use my calculator to find whole number points. So you're going to type this equation into y equals. Then you're going to hit second graph to get a table. And when I looked at my table, I found a couple of whole number values. -10 gave me 13, -4 gave me 4, 8 and 4, 14 and 13. So I'm going to use these points, plot as many as I can fit. So I have 8, 4, -4, 4, and cross through my points. The final two things you need to label on your graph are going to be the focus, so 2, 4, and the vertex, which is at 2, 1. So by the end you should have the vertex, the focus, the directrix, the axis of symmetry, all of those 4 need to be labeled, and a couple points plotted using your table. Graph y squared minus 4y plus 2x minus 2 equals 0. I'm going to complete the square for only the squared term. So when we look at our equation, the only thing squared is y. So what we're going to do is we're going to get all of our y terms on the left side of the equation, and everything else is going to get moved to the right side equation. So we have y squared minus 4y equals -2x plus 2. You only need to square, find the perfect square for the y squared terms. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So we get y squared minus 4y plus 4 equals -2x plus 6. We're going to factor both sides. So the y side becomes a perfect square, y minus 2 squared. And then to factor the left side, or the right side of the equation, you're going to pull out whatever constant is in front of the x. So you're going to factor out a -2 from both this term and the +6. The reason why we did this is to get useful information from our equation. So here's the k value. K is always with the y. H is always with the x. And then 4p is going to be equal to the constant in front of the non-squared term. So right away we have our vertex and our axis of symmetry. To get our p-value, we set the constant equal to 4p, solve for p, we get -1/2. This is a horizontal because y is squared, and it's going to open to the left because p is less than 0. So we'll use this information to find our remaining pieces. To find the focus, we have to add negative 1/2 to 3, so we get 2.5, 2. And then to get the directrix, we subtract negative 1/2 from 3 to get x equals 3.5. We're going to solve the equation for y and make a table. When you solve the equation for y, you end up with 2 equations because we need to take the square root in this situation. So whenever we have horizontal, we end up having these 2 equations because we have a plus or minus. To make the table, I could either use my calculator, plug this in, and find a value, or you can find a value that's going to make this a perfect square. If I plug in positive 1 here, I'm going to end up with the square root of 4. Square root of 4 plus 2 is going to give me 4. And this number here that's going to make the first one a perfect square will also make the second one a perfect square. So then I get negative square root of 4 plus 2 is going to give me 0. Again, my first point came from the positive equation, my second point came from the negative equation. My graph is going to consist of the 4 points, the axis and the directrix, and then all I have to do is connect to form a parabolic curve. This should not have any straight lines. This should be curved.